This is Invasion of Polly Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui.
And welcome back for another episode. And like what we say to do is, I don't know if anyone here has checked our old stuff, but we're moving to a new channel on YouTube. We're going to relaunch. We're just going to do the Polly Snatcher thing. We're going to stick to horror, sci-fi. It's the kind of shit we like doing the most. But like, that's not what we're here to talk about. So, like, Noel, before we get into why we're here, what have you been doing in like the 2 months since we recorded Prey?
Oh wow, yes, God, it's 2 months now, isn't it?
Mm.
My band Aries Redemption released a song called Deception. Pretty proud of that. Got that out there. Have a few gigs lined up. Otherwise, I've been keeping myself busy. The brother's about to get married. He won the premiership in Australia. That's not,
Nice.
for Geelong, no small thing. So his home, and I'm the best man, not like the good man, but like I'm the best man at that. So that's something I have coming up now. How about you, man? Busy
Um,
writing?
yeah, I've just been doing my shit, you know what I mean? Like books getting so close to being finished. It's gone into the final edit now. Only a little few things, across the across the eyes, I was gonna say.
Across the eyes. He's a
Across
writer,
the
everyone.
eyes and dot the T's. And immediately when I thought about it, right? Normally you would think that doesn't sound right in my head. And I was like, that's it, dude. Go over
It's always when you're trying to
there.
think of something. If you're just talking freestyle, it's absolutely fine. It's when you
Yeah.
know to use an expression and it just fucks up. No.
And that words with Vincent Green. But yeah, my like Riverbone's getting nearly, it's nearly done. I'm working on Noel Lighthouse at the moment. But busy. But like that's all good and well. But like that, as I said in the intro, that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is two movies, both directed by Ty West. Both very different, but also very similar. They're in the same universe. One's a prequel of the other, but the way they're shot and the setting is completely different. And that is X and its prequel Pearl, both starring Mia Goth and oh, I can't remember that other little girl. What's that? Your one's name? Jenny Ortega.
Ortega, yeah,
Jenny
she's
Ortega, who
blown
played,
up now as well.
yeah, she's playing Wednesday in
Yeah,
Wednesday.
yeah.
So
I
so
think
no.
Scream was the first time I seen her, and now I feel like I've seen her
Ah,
like
man, I sat through the entirety of X and I was like, I recognize her. I 100% know who she is. And I was like,
yeah, cut and
you,
place it.
yeah, and you're just like the whole way through. And I didn't check IMDb because I was full sure I'd guess who she was.
There is something about that. There is something about
Mm.
no, because that's a coward's way out. You sit here in this frustration until you figure it out.
Yeah,
Like,
usually I'll only check IMDb if I 100% think I don't know.
oh
I
no, no.
just,
If you don't know it, when you know it's nowhere to be found,
yeah.
and it's just like somebody like who played cop number three at a crime scene, and you're like, oh, sure, yeah, he was a background. No, no, no. When you know, you don't know. But it's when you do know,
Yeah.
you'll be like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, going, Scream four. She was in
Yeah.
Scream four. Scream
Yeah.
five. Was it Scream four? Scream five.
Scream 5, but just called Scream. I'm surprised they didn't just call it Death Scream. Because like every time everybody reboots, like Death Final Destination, Death Predator, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah.
time it's a reboot, it's just lazy. And it's surprised they didn't just go Death Halloween as well.
The Halloween ends.
Halloween ends. We'll have to get around to that soon
Oh,
because
do we?
oh man, the Corey Cunningham show.
The Corey Cunningham show. That's what we're calling the episode, man. You nailed it right there.
Man,
But back,
Jesus, that movie.
back keeping it on track. Which
Mm,
one do you want to dive into a little bit first? I suppose we can kind of take a little bit of a macro look at it, can't we?
mm. Yeah, like
Uh,
I think that's the best way. Just jump back and forward and just because we'll compare them.
yes.
I think it's the best way to go about it.
I think they turned Pearl into someone that's going to be talked about in years to come as one of these dark, twisted, fucked up characters. I think in a
Mm,
film, in one film in isolation, she was this crazy old woman who was obsessed with sex, hypersexualized, and hyper violent.
mm,
And there was a Venn diagram of when they overlapped, like when she was rejected or anything like that, or when she was jealous. But I think with the release in the prequel, and I think they were right to do it X then Pearl. I think I was thinking about this. If they released them the other way around, it would have just been like, oh my God, they're after ending up on Pearl's farm. They're just going to die. You wouldn't have been
mm.
like, what's the deal with this? Or what's the deal with this? It would have had none of that. But when you see her as an old lady, and then you see what the film's about, and then you get to see her as a young woman, I think it was very, very clever. Even though these films are really slow, you never get a prequel released that close
Mm.
to the original film. It's usually an idea that somebody comes up with much later.
Yeah.
But I actually think it was a very clever way to release them because I just think it meant that X was a bit of a surprise. And when you went to her youth and how she got there, that was nice and twisted. I just felt like it worked.
Yeah, it was kind of like normally a prequel comes, especially in horrors, when you paint yourself into a corner
Yes,
and you can't do a sequel, kind of like what they did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
yes.
Like, you know what I mean? So it seems to me that Ty West had these two movies written at the same time,
Must have
maybe.
done, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy how close.
it was ridiculous
Like you said,
because
prequels come out like when they want to, like, God, we've
three
killed this
years later,
franchise. You know, they do them with, like, what's that one where it's just the cameras in the house, Paranormal Activity. They
yeah,
take it to a point where it's like, I suppose we could do home videotapes in like the
yeah,
80s because we
yeah.
have to. We paint ourselves into a car. But it's about 10, 12, 13 years after the original film, man. This
Mm,
wasn't even 13 months
mm.
after the original film. It's 6 or 7, not tops.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I literally watched X earlier on this year. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
same.
like it must have come out at the end of last year, start of
Uh,
this year.
we're just after Halloween now. There's no doubt it was this year. No doubt
Yeah,
about it. Yeah, it was this
yeah.
year.
Like it's crazy, like to see like, but I think it's kind of like maybe they were shot at the same time or something, but I just think it's kind of like this thing now where creators are just a bit more easy about just releasing things because it's maybe something to do with that stream mentality. Like
Yeah.
before, it'd be like nearly almost taboo, like cannibalization, to release a film in the same year as its prequel or sequel,
Hmm.
because when you're trying to still garner money from the first one,
That's
people
it.
are going to switch to the next movie.
Exactly.
But because of this kind of thing where we have binge viewing or serialized nature in terms of like Netflix and Amazon and Disney, we're very much well used to having these properties come out like rapidly. That maybe this is kind of another kind of symptom of that, where you'll have movies and
Hmm.
sequels coming out in more close quarters, and
Yes.
people just like let's elongate the conversation, because it could be another symptom that people like maybe their attention span is so low in terms of viewers. Maybe we should hold on to their attention, and the only way we can hold on to attention is dominate the year. That
I'm
kind
a
of
big
thing.
film guy as well, and sometimes Sheila, it's my partner would say to me like, "Oh, that's after dropping on Prime." That thing that I haven't thought about in 2 or 3 months, and now instead of like, oh, it's in the cinema, it's like, oh, I have Prime. Like, it's like, oh, we could watch it in bed, or we could go down to the cinema and watch it right now, and that
Yeah.
became so commonplace. I felt like films are constantly sneaking up on me. Remember that one that
Mm.
was based in the 80s and they went back to the 70s, and then what was it? It was on Netflix, and it had the red haired girls, Sadie Sink or
Fear
whatever.
Street.
Yeah, Fear Street. Like,
Mm.
I couldn't believe they were weekly. I was like, oh God, I hope to make another one. And when they dropped one the following Friday, I was
Yeah.
giddy. I
Yeah.
was giddy. Like,
Oh man.
I was. That was one of the happiest I've ever been about a
It,
film, because I was
it'd be
just like,
like
that was a lot of
getting
fun. I can't believe I get the second one, a whole film, 1 week later, like an episode.
it's like it'd be the equivalent of getting Scream 1, 2, and 3 in the same month.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because that, like, I'm not saying they're as good as the Scream movies, but they're not
no,
bad. They're
no, they're
far
not.
from bad, and they're
And
like,
Scream 3 came out in what, like 2001, 2002, after the first one coming out in 1996.
hmm.
That's what films usually are.
Yeah, exactly. 2, 3 years if you're lucky, and that's usually only with the horror genre. You look
Yeah.
at like some of the Batman movies. I think they came out 4 or 5 years apart. Like, you know what I mean? So like, and like even the
It's just
Marvel,
different.
yeah,
Like, it used to be like in the music industry, you say like, Metallica would release an album, and the touring company, everything would say, guys, do not go near the studio for the next 18 months. We want Hardwire to self-destruct t-shirts. We want to sell the box sets. We want you to do at least one world tour and another
mm,
American tour, at least. And we have t-shirt designs, we have this. When the iron is hot, if you go into the studio, then you quell all that fire that exists. It's just gone. Now everyone's moved on to the next thing, and I don't understand it in films. I think it's just a hyper saturated market, and they're trying to keep up. I know
mm.
you've explained that better than I just did, but I do think it's just a different time.
Yeah, isn't it? It's just like I think people are just more casual about let's just get it out there. It's not like let's run it in the cinema for 6 months and like
Yeah,
let's do the worldwide market.
director's cut the following
Yeah,
year.
exactly. Yeah, it's more like let's get it out. Let's give it 60 to 90 days worldwide, or as many markets as we can hit at
Yeah,
once. And then 45 days later, it's on a streaming service.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like Halloween Ends was on Peacock day of, I'm pretty sure, because when I went to go see in the cinema, it was already up to download. Like, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Smile. I Smile's out to download. It was
Oh
on.
man, I seen that and said we should cover that. That's a fun movie. It does
Yeah, so it's
like
just
I won't tell
like
you anything about it.
yeah, my nephew went to it like a week ago. He
Yeah.
called me afterwards, and he was, because he knows I love horror movies, and he was telling me all about it. And I was like, oh, cool. Like that was a week ago, and I was just like, yeah. So it is. And we are a spoiled creature,
Yeah.
the human being.
Yeah.
We just say, oh, that's cool, and we don't think about what it must take to actually get that product to us. Like,
Oh, see, it makes sense now though, because right, what you do is you make as much money as you can, because as I said, people got a short attention span, as you mentioned, oversaturated market. So what's going to happen is, if you have a long run, you're going to run into a Colossus. You're going to run
yeah,
into a Marvel movie, or you're going to run into the next Disney
yes,
movie or something. And this is the problem, you see, right? So what you do is you look at the market, you go, we got 60 days before Captain America 4 comes out, and right after fucking Tour 17. And like, you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, so you go, we were going to run in for 60 days in between those two juggernauts when people are catching their breath, make as much money as possible. And then what we're going to do is, when they're in the cinema, we'll be on the streaming platforms.
yeah,
And I think that's what smaller movies are doing now. They're just like, let's run it for like in those niche little windows now, because Marvel, everybody knows Marvel dominates springtime, summertime, and wintertime.
yeah.
So what you do is, all the other releases are in and around Marvel movies now. Do you know what's that like?
Oh, absolutely.
Like
Sure, you're
that's what it is,
only.
because they're juggernauts. Like,
Oh
you know
no,
what I
it's
mean? So,
it's just Harry Carey
mm,
to release something inside of. I remember like the Last Action Hero. The first thing ever it came out at the same time as Jurassic Park, and I was like, no, no, that's not fair.
that's just bad planning.
That's just bad planning, man.
Yeah,
You can't do that.
yeah. Like that's the thing. Like, and like you have to know your market. And I think what Ty West did with X and Pearl, he's like, people got shorter attention spans. Let's give
Yeah.
them everything at once. Let's give them this story, because instead of us hoping that people are like, oh, I love X, I'm going to go see Pearl of 2023, 2024.
Mhm.
Let's dominate 2022. Let's
Yeah,
let's
that's
just own the
dominant.
year,
Exactly.
and then we're
Yeah.
going to be on X is going to be streaming when Pearl comes out in the cinema, because it's already on Amazon Prime. So people can go and watch X and then go see Pearl in the cinema. And if they don't see it in the cinema, we're going to be on a platform straight away, because that's how I seen Pearl. It was like out on streaming almost instantaneously. Like that's why they did it. Like, you know, and I'd say, like, if you look at Ty West, I think he came from the VHS background, those movies. I'm not too sure, but I can check it up. But like, because I watched those recently, and then there's like the credits are all like some of the best young horror directors now, and they all came from this one anthology. But excuse me. But like, I think what Ty West is just like, yeah, I understand the marketplace.
Yeah. VHS. He
Yeah,
was. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's just like, I understand the marketplace, I understand people's attention spans, I understand the streaming mindset. Let's do our run and let's dominate 2022. And if and then I can do something else next year, and like, you know what I mean? And just, I think that's the best thing to do now, because what you need to do is, you can't hold people's attention span for 2 3 years sometimes. Look at Marvel, they're constantly releasing new things now, because that's how you hold people's attention span.
Yeah.
You
And they're
constantly,
like they're forwarding the Avengers narrative inside of a Captain America film.
yeah.
And they're, you know what I mean, like they're yeah, it's a Captain America film, but like it features heavily Iron Man. So even though you haven't had an Iron Man film in years, it's that fire is still burning. It was some genius marketing. It really was. Like,
Yeah, it's like everyone says like Captain America Civil War is like Avengers 2.0 or 2.5, like between Avengers 2 and Avengers 3, like, you know what I mean? Because it just, as you said, it's pretty much just like, oh, you remember Ant-Man? You remember Ant-Man? You remember this? You remember him? You remember him? Oh, look, we got a bit of Spider-Man for you. And just like, this is like the next step on a bigger thing. This is to show everyone that it's still, even outside of the Avengers movies, you're going to get these huge events. And that's
yeah,
how you hold people's attention in the 4 year span between Avengers 2 and Avengers 3, or whatever it was. I think it was 3 years or something, 3 or 4 years. And that's how you hold people's attention. And I think that's the kind of symptomatic of the way we are now streaming, that Netflix has got a new show next month, got a new show next
oh
month,
fuck
got a
yeah.
new show next month. And that's how you keep people. It's not about
I turn on Netflix and just see what's going on at this point. You
exactly
know what
it.
I mean? Like I check in every week
It's
and
like
just see
watching,
what's
looking
going
through the
on.
TV guide. Like, it's
Yeah,
something we
yeah,
talked about before. It's not about customer acquisition anymore. It's about customer retention in a lot of ways.
mm-hmm.
Because if you get, like, I know people would say, oh, they don't want the plateau, but yeah, when you have hundreds of millions of customers every month, that's a good plateau to be on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, so,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
and then it gets to a stage like, shit, we're plateauing. Now we have to hold on to them, because if we're plateauing, the only way is
retention
down.
is obviously half the battle as
Exactly.
well.
So you have to keep everyone's attention. So that's what the Marvel did, MCU. I think that's what Ty West was like. I'm just going to hold people's attention. I'm going to dominate this year. I'm going to release X. I'm going to introduce everyone to Pearl, as you said, as an old lady. She's just this like massively over sexualized, hyper violent person that like, and then you're just like, oh, she's an interesting character. He kills her because it's spoiler review, spoiler, but like he kills, so we'll put it in the head.
Yeah,
But
we'll
like,
put it in the head. And,
yeah,
like they reverse a car right over her fucking skull.
yeah, exactly.
There
Like,
was no like,
yeah,
and it wasn't supernatural. There was no coming back.
yeah,
She was a dead old lady.
exactly. Yeah. So like pretty much you kill her in the first one, you go, but she's an interesting character. So you go, I want to know Pearl's motivations. Why is Pearl like this? It's kind of like why is Miss Bates like that or something. Like, and you see the Bates Motel.
Yeah,
And I only see the first season of that show, but as far as everyone tells me, it's amazing. And like, so I just think it's that kind of idea. It's like what went on, what made Norman, like if you see Norman Bates younger, it's like you see
yeah.
Pearl younger, what made him that person? Like, was she created? Was she always like this? Like that kind of thing. And
In this
then,
case, actually, it's just I know that was a rhetorical question, but she was always like this.
yeah,
The mother,
yeah,
there was a great God. Actually, I wish because the way you're speaking now, I wish I'd retained the line exactly. But there was just something. She goes, I see it in your eyes, or I see the darkness in you, or something
yeah,
like that. And it was a nice kind of spook that, especially the hyper religious parents, as they usually are in these scenarios.
yeah. Like,
But like,
the German woman, she was like she kind of annoyed me though. I don't understand when people are like, "Oh, I have my pride." Like, yeah, but you could have had a nice big pig there to eat for a couple of days. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Oh, the rotten pig on the patio. Yeah,
yeah,
you're absolutely right.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's messed up. So one thing I want to say to you, right? So if we're talking about these movies in comparison to sidebar, but like, what did you think of the way they were shot? Because like, so if anyone's watching this and they haven't seen X or Pearl, you shouldn't be watching this because we'll definitely be spoiling shit for you. But X is shot in this
Damn
kind
it! Just like and comment and subscribe and get the
of
hell out of here.
but X is kind of shot in this like because it's all about they're making a porno in like a barn in the
In the
countryside and stuff.
70s,
Yeah, in the 70s, and it's shot in this kind of grindhouse type style.
very much so.
And then you have Pearl, which is set 50 years previous, something like
I
that.
think in and around World War One. So like, yeah, a
Yeah,
good 50 something years. I think
yeah,
that's where the husband was.
yeah.
I
He's
think
over
he
in
was off
France or
fighting.
something.
He was over in France. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you have about 50 or so. He's shot in this kind of Technicolor style. So what did
Yes.
you make of first? It's going to be two-part question. So what do you make of first the comparison of two different styles, and which one do you prefer more?
Oh wow. I don't really right off the bat. I wouldn't know how to answer the latter one, but I will give it. I loved how 70s it felt, and then I loved how roaring 20s it felt, or late
Mm-hmm.
1980s, I suppose, in and around World War One. So let's just say it was 1918, 17, kind of when the war was winding down. Um, and it just felt so immersive and just true to its time. But for me, I love the 70s one, I suppose, if I was like a gun to my head, because I always
Mm,
because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Hills of
mm,
Eyes and The Last House on the Left and all these kind of films, they were so there were such game changers in the horror industry. And that when
mm.
a modern film revisits it, I'm always like, if you revisit it, fine, but do it justice.
Yeah.
Don't overdo it.
Don't just
Don't
throw a
underdo
fucking
it.
filter onto it or
Yeah,
something.
don't just throw a filter on it. But like they
Mm,
felt like 70s kids with 70s ideals, and you know, like and in the earlier one, it was a very conservative kind of era when it was almost Amish in their kind of
mm.
approach. And yeah, no, I thought it was great, but like Mia Goth was so excellent in it because you know you're only as good as your actors at the end of the day. I
And the
thought that
fact
she,
that he had Mia Goth play Pearl in the first one shows that he had the two of them planned out.
oh, big time.
You know what I
No,
mean?
she
Like,
got to play Mia Goth got to play the porn star, the elder Pearl,
Maxine.
and the younger Pearl, and she absolutely slayed all three roles. It was
Mm.
her that survives, in fact, X, isn't it?
Yeah, she kills
So it's
Pearl.
Mia Goth who kills Mia Goth. Like
Mm.
just that's just great stuff.
Oh man, like some of the kills in Pearl, but like
And the kills in Pearl were
yeah,
brilliant.
we no, let's not let's finish off about the different styles first off.
Answer your own question, actually, just because
Oh,
you're the one who thought about it.
well, my question, like, so Vincent, would you prefer 19? But like, so,
Yeah.
yeah, well, as you said, like, all the things you said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all those kind of movies from the 70s, and like. You know what I mean? We have that very like, as I always say to Lorraine, let me look at a video of something, and I will tell you from the production quality what decade it's from. And I get it
Yeah,
right. I get it right nearly 100% of the time, because every decade has this very specific visual aesthetic.
yeah.
And
Even
1970,
an angle and a color and yeah,
and just like what color, the way the blood looks,
yes,
stuff like that. Like, how does the black look on the screen in terms of nighttime? And is it blue? Because if it's blue, you're talking 70s and 80s. Because like 70s and 80s, the nighttime better than anybody. And it was just so cool. Like now everything's too well lit and it doesn't give you that sense of danger anymore. But like, the talking about visual aesthetics, the 1970s had like one of my favorites, had some of my favorite movies in terms of science fiction and horror come from that decade.
of course.
But I've never seen a slasher in Technicolor before. So
Yeah,
that
that's a
was
good
new
point
to
actually.
me. Like,
Yeah, not a
yeah,
proper slasher like.
because like I actually turned around with a weird smile on my face at the start, and I go, I think this is gonna be Technicolor, and this is gonna be fucking weird.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Because I've never seen anyone getting butchered in Technicolor before. As long
and
as
and not with it was the modern practical effects of like real blood, real get
mm,
open throat wounds and stuff like that, like hyper violent.
yeah,
But back then the kills they didn't look quite the part that we just what happened.
yeah,
Time passed and we learned things.
yeah,
So this got the advantage of like the although if you're running around and you're being chased down by some like hillbilly killer type thing,
Kill Billy.
don't look through a hole in a barn. Just don't do that.
Yeah, that happened in both movies, didn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it
Yeah.
did happen in both
Yeah,
movies.
yeah. So
Just
yeah,
like just
let's
don't
talk
do
about
that.
the kills. What was your right? The two things about horror movies is right when you're talking about kills, best kill and dumbest kill, like the dumbest victim and how they got killed. So like, do you think was your favorite? What was your favorite kill from both movies?
Okay, fair.
Mm.
My favorite kill from both movies was the first kill in X, where I just thought I love these films that don't mess around with how fragile a thing the human body is.
Mm.
The sound guy kind of rejects Pearl when he meets her outside, and she's just standing there like that, and then she just places a knife in his neck. I remember it was just like a knife going through butter. She just put it in his neck. It wasn't like Michael, Jason Voorhees would have literally picked him up and folded him in half, or would have hit him so hard with a machete that he would have split down the middle or something
Mm.
like that. But it was just, and then she got down and she just keeps stabbing him until he dies. And I was just like, what? And right in front of the van and the lights in the car or something like that, or he
And
gets into the van.
everything goes like deep red.
Exactly.
Everything like
I
it's
just thought
so
that
well
was
shot.
that's it. It was just
Mm.
so well shot and so dark, and he died just alone out
Yeah.
there, and it was so pointless.
Mm.
And I think with the second film, my favorite kill was the guy she was having the affair with. He was the projectionist
Yeah.
in the old cinema or movie theater, as the Americans would say,
The
and.
talkies.
Yeah, and she just kind of runs up and sticks a pitchfork in his chest as he's driving, and he kind of drives down the road, but he's bleeding out really, really quickly. And
Yeah.
it was such it wasn't a smooth kill. It's kind of like that's the thing. A murder should be like that sometimes because it's a murder.
Mm.
It's chaotic. It's not like, I'm behind the door and stab and it's over.
Yeah.
The
Because
man was
usually
like,
we both know, like when you're trying to murder someone, your victim will generally put up a fight.
exactly how
Will
long do you have
generally,
to choke someone to like? I
yeah,
mean, you're learning on the
exactly.
job,
Like manual strangulation takes a lot of time and effort to
Exactly.
learn. It's an art form unto itself. But continue. Sorry, I digress.
Sorry about this. I honestly thought this was good. It shouldn't be another minute. But yeah, no, I thought that kill was great. I thought that just your man in the chest, and he couldn't believe it, and he tries to drive off. But I mean, you're talking heart, lungs. I mean, like, center mass,
Yeah.
right center mass. It was a completely and totally fatal hit, no doubt about it.
Mm.
But it was just the fuck you-ness. When Pearl decides you're going to die, you're going to die. And I loved both those kills.
My favorite kill from the first movie was probably I love a good crocodile kill. I love or alligator
Yeah,
kill.
I knew you. I had a feeling you might
Yeah,
go for
you
that.
know what I mean.
It was a good crocodile
It,
kill.
it, it was it's a good kill. But like uh, the dude that gets shot in the chest was one of the best kills I thought because it was so nonchalant. The way he
Yeah,
just puts the shotgun to his chest and like just like explodes him.
and
But like,
exactly just enough time for your man to realize, but not enough time for the brain to kick in and do something
yeah,
about it.
exactly. That
It
slight
was just
delayed
that one
reaction.
second,
It's kind
like
of oh shit.
oh yeah, and then you're gone. Like
Yeah, I just tell anybody don't go into a swamp with no dude with a shotgun in the middle of the night. Just go and put that out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, like he's like,
because
I
apparently
can't
that's
find
a
my
thing that needs
wife.
to be said. Like,
Yeah, he's like, I can't find my wife. And I'm like, unfortunate event, I see. But I will take my
I'll
leave.
go back in the house and see if she's
Yeah,
in there.
what I'll do is, yeah, I'll check around here. Well, I'll run a slow lap around. And if you hear an engine starting and a car driving off, not me,
Not me.
not
No,
me,
not to worry about it.
not me.
No, yeah, that was there was. That's what I said. The film had some great kills. It just
Yeah.
did. What about the stupidest kill? I suppose for me it
Mm.
was the
Do you remember my other kill though? Sorry for Pearl would have been like, do you know she kills her mother? Like
yes,
that scene's chaotic and the father watching on and stuff like that.
and the father is completely and totally
Yeah,
incapable of doing anything except
yeah,
being
man.
afraid.
That scene is so fucking messed up. It's so well
And
done.
she
Like,
kind of just like the mother just kind of dies, as in she doesn't die from the attack. She's down in the cellar and she's just left there to die.
yeah.
And that is just so messed up. I thought it was great. It just showed her, or even her father, where she's like, and you know, and I'm really grateful to you, Pa. You know, and like she,
Yeah,
you know, she just thought, but I just have to get out of here.
she
You
was
know,
so empty, wasn't she though?
oh, she was so
So
incredibly
it was
empty.
like vapid or something like, you know.
I think the stupidest kill. I think you know when she's the sister-in-law was like, but I'll pretend I am him. Pretend I am here. And I always think like if you're in that scenario, you you become an actor. You just say, "Wow, well, I'm great. I think it's great you got off that chest. Look, you're trying your best, not to worry. Blah blah blah. Here, I tell you what, I'm gonna go get us a bottle of wine. You know, like, we're gonna, me and you, we're gonna hash this out. You know, because she just went like, you know, like just like that, and you knew like that was it. She was fucked, and you one just walks after her, and it's a good kill,
Is that the
but
blonde girl?
the blonde girl, yeah, I
Mm.
would have just like, oh, dude, no, no, just like keep it together and get out of there.
She was so close to getting out of there too.
And
Mm.
she did get out of there. She was walking away, chased down and killed.
Mm.
So I thought that was like, I enjoyed it, but like you're asking me for a stupidest
Those
kill, I suppose I'd have to go with that.
those scenes are good though because like if they're done right and you feel that tension and
Oh, it's a
nervousness,
horrible thing. I'm not saying it's an
yeah.
easy thing to do. I was just like,
Mm.
hmm, well, that's a head scratcher. You know,
Well, I'll be. I just think I left something.
yeah.
What you say? Sorry. What?
But
You
she got all like, you know,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's fine, fine. I'm not going to tell nobody, you know, and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And I would have been like, no, dude. I'd have been like, who hasn't killed? Who
Yeah.
hasn't had an affair? It's all gravy. Bottle of wine. Me and you gonna do it.
No, but is that when she found out the blonde girl won the competition?
She already kind of knew.
Yeah, do you remember
Yeah,
man, that whole obsession she had with the dancing, that was so well done.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? And then when she does her audition, that scene is fucking weird. Like there's just nothing in her. Like, you know what I mean? She's just pretending like that
yeah.
she's
But
a person. You know what
yeah,
I mean? She's just
she's doing what she
imitating.
sees people doing around her. She wants to be like rich and famous
Hmm.
because it's vapid, but she doesn't understand anything.
Yeah.
And she's danced for pigs and cows, and you know, she wasn't this like superstar in waiting that she thought she was. She was completely and totally delusional.
Yeah, it's so fucking well done. Like do you think there's any similarities between Pearl and Maxine in that sense? The whole I'm gonna be a star.
Yeah, I suppose actually that's a good point. I'd say when he was, especially having the same actress play it, that you could see what if it had gone a different way.
Mm.
Because the second film had all that preacher stuff on the TV, and it kind of led you to believe that was probably Maxine's family or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
her father, I think, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because like you hear her actually using the same words as he
that's
says on the
exactly
TV
what
as
it
well.
was.
Yeah,
And you're just thinking, what if it had gone a slightly different way? The
yeah,
nature nurture, and then just the third factor, which would just be environment.
yeah.
You
And both
know,
of them
the
come from strict religious backgrounds as well, don't
strict
they?
religious backgrounds, yeah, and they
Mm.
both but one ended up shooting some porn. She wasn't a psychopath. And then there was Pearl, who was such a combination of things to end up being that, you know, like
Yeah,
the strict parents, and then her being a really, you know, special needs child was definitely something like, you know, a learning disability of some description, and
I think
she
she's just
just,
so sheltered that she's stunted in terms of her social capabilities.
yeah,
And
which is why the end of what's it called, the end of Pearl, where
mm,
she's just smiling and she's just maintaining the smile, and the camera just stays on her for ages. I thought that was, it really speaks to like what you're talking about, the emptiness. She
yeah,
didn't know,
she's like, I'm
like he
supposed to smile here. But you can
Yeah,
see it in her
exactly.
eyes that she's faking because she's
Oh
crying
yeah.
at the same time, isn't she?
Oh yeah, exactly. And she's really, really strained. And the parents are dead at the table and the food is rotten and but she's still striking the pose of its time, the very like, stay-at-home wife,
Mm,
pretty little dress and in the kitchen cooking and all that kind of very,
mm.
very conservative mindset of the time. And at the same time, it's juxtaposed against how fucked up the entire situation is. And I love that the husband doesn't speak. I
Yeah.
love that it just sits in silence because what the fuck else would you do?
Yeah, man, it's so fucked up though. Like, cause like imagine being trapped in your own body like that.
Oh
Like,
my
I
god.
really have sympathy for people who suffer stuff like that. Like, you're literally your body is your fucking cage.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, he can probably think. Like, he probably has his mental capabilities about him,
Oh,
but just
probably
no.
has absolutely 100% of his mental capabilities.
Mm,
Just absolutely nothing. It was some sort
physical.
of like ALS or Lou Gehrig's or something like that. He seemed to have the movement of his eyes. He could grunt a bit or something, and that was it. He was just completely and totally trapped. Oh, that was awful.
Lou Gehrig died of Lou Gehrig's disease. What a chance of
What the chances? Yeah.
that.
But I don't know. I thought these were films. They weren't cookie cutter films. Like I've
Mhm.
seen kind of aspects of them in many films,
Yeah.
but I thought the way it was assembled, it did give a little kind of slice of something I hadn't really seen
Oh
before.
man, serious Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes for X
Massive Texas Chainsaw
massively.
Massacre vibes.
It's very hard though to set a movie in the 70s and send a group of people into the remoteness and not have those comparisons though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Especially when you go for that aesthetic, you know.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
Mm,
Even if they had stayed in the city or somehow, or if it was a little bit more suburbia, maybe.
yeah.
But the second you were out there along the Bible Belt,
In the
in
sticks.
in the sticks, near a swamp,
Mm,
near a marsh, you are
mm.
done. You are making a Texas
Cousin marrying
Chainsaw
country.
cousin Marion Country.
I
Yeah,
said it.
which he said it. He said
He
it.
did
But
it.
it is. That's and it did. Like they looked. They were so old that there was like
Mm.
they were like in their hundreds or something as well. There was something like
Yeah, like
really
easily in their
scary.
90s. Easily, like
Easily in their
yeah.
90s, yeah, and it was kind of scary,
I thought it would have been kind of cool if they're like if they went back really far and she hadn't aged, like she was way older and she was like fucking, using the blood of the young to keep her. I would have gone with that. You could fit a few more Pearl movies in there. I say we'd see more Pearl movies.
You think
Because
we'll see
yeah,
more Parliament? Well,
like
that's the thing. The
50
good thing
years
about
now.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. The good thing is there's
So they're talking.
like a Pearl in her 50s.
Hmm.
Absolutely no problem doing that, none
You know what I mean?
whatsoever.
You could do it like Mia got, but you could easily do a couple of sequels now easily.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And have they literally could do about 6 or 7 movies to bridge that gap if you
the
wanted to.
times we live in, we have sequels, prequels, requels, and interquels, and
Interquels.
that
Goddamn you, Star Wars.
yeah,
Mm.
goddamn you, Star Wars. So there's just like you can do absolutely anything you want, reimagine it, start
Mm.
over, yeah, because there's so much about her that kind of falls into the mindset of what we know of male serial killers,
Yeah.
sexual sadists, all that. It's a very, very male kind of area,
Mm.
unfortunately. But she just slots right in there, and she's like the worst of the worst. And that was just something I hadn't seen at her a lot before. Like
Mm.
she was the Ed Gein, and she was the Ted Bundy, all wrapped up in one. Like,
Yeah, like a woman like that though would be a very successful serial killer
oh yeah,
because of this outward emptiness. Like because
yeah,
if you don't see through that, you'd probably see her as an just a country girl. You
yeah,
know, that kind of thing. Like, and that's how like a lot of people saw her as a bumpkin, but they didn't realize this woman is deranged and she's a ticking time bomb.
yeah.
Like you don't
She's
realize,
very flirty and reciprocative of any
yeah.
attention as well. So God knows she would have suitors or something like that would
Mm.
jump at the chance to go out to the farmyard, and and then you have a very, very fat alligator at the end of it all,
Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I just think like that's one thing that made her so successful. Like, because people, once again, we talk about in certain situations like evil kids or evil old people that you underestimate them,
Yes.
and you don't realize that this whole person's lived a long life.
Yeah.
They could have a lot of predilections that don't like coalesce with society. There's a reason they're living out in the remoteness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but there could be all these things like, and you look at these things like where you see a Pearl, and in her youth, people probably underestimated her, said saw her as a country bumpkin, and then when she was older, people still underestimated her because they saw her as this old feeble lady, but they
Mm,
don't realize that that old feeble lady was once this really deranged, empty, kind of vapid, deluded kind of sociopath.
mm,
And she came from a very restricted background. She was suppressed to the point where she pretty much exploded. And
yeah.
this happens a lot to these people, like where
And
they're
her victims are coming up to her asking her, "Are you okay? Can I
mm,
help you?" Because like you touched on, is that she doesn't that's not what you're afraid of. That's not what you grew up to be afraid of. That's
yeah,
not what when you're walking home at night, the thing that you don't want to run into. So
yeah,
it's just like her own victims were like wrapping coats around her, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
exactly,
she's
yeah,
cutting you up 5 minutes later. Of
yeah. And
course,
like
it's
sure, in X, the girl, the other porn star, no, no, there was only one porn star.
Jenna Ortega ended up shooting
Yeah,
a scene.
but you know the blonde girl in X, what's the other porn star's name? But
Oh,
he was,
I'll get it up.
but
You go ahead.
dirt,
I said
yeah,
what I said.
just to kind of to enforce your point that like when you talk about like how she kind of lulls people into this kind of false sense of security, she goes over to her and she's like, yeah, like you're gonna catch her cold.
Bobby Lane.
I was in Bobby Lynn. But
Hmm.
so Bobby Lynn goes over to Pearl and she's like, seeing she's okay, and then Pearl just pushes her in and the alligator eats her. It's that kind of thing where, like, the old man when he shoots the Marine, like he pretty much like the other porn star, and he lures him in, goes because he doesn't see him as a threat, and he's like, once a Marine, always a Marine, that kind of thing, like or I don't see as a threat. You need my help, I'm going to help you, and that dude ends up like putting a shotgun to his chest and killing him.
Yeah.
It's that thing where over time you can see how they've used or they've learned how to implement their different weaponry. So when Pearl was younger, people saw her as a very sheltered, which she kind of was, but people saw her as very innocent, very
Very
harmless.
smile, like she had a literal skip in her step.
Yeah, like that
And
kind of
and
thing.
a
Like,
big white smile, like you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
she
almost
was
like
pretty.
people saw the naivety in her,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know what I mean. So they thought they could take advantage of it, but didn't realize this is a ticking time bomb.
Oh
And
yeah.
she drew people in that way with this fake naivety when she really was a kind of very predatorial. And then when she was older, she uses the false sense of security. And I just think it's very cool to see the evolution of a serial killer, how they use different weapons as they progress, so they can continue killing people, because that's the thing that they get their high from, or their rush from, is the act of killing people. And it's very
Yeah.
interesting to me to see how serial killers remain prolific over a long period of time. And I know there's a big time gap, but it's very interesting, or it's very cool seeing Pearl as a young 20-something-year-old and Pearl in her 90s, and using very different methods or methodology to kill people, but being so successful at doing both things. And I think that's what I really like about X and Pearl, and the way they're shot and the way the story is told, that you get to see the birth of a serial killer, and you also get to see a serial killer who's not at the zenith of her powers, but like she's still very much well in tuned with a different set of powers, because she knows still how to hunt, but in a very different way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Adapted to keep doing what she loves doing,
Mm.
100%. It was a great series of movies, and I mean, sorry, what was the director's name
Ty
again?
West.
Ty Ty
West.
West. Like, yeah, he has, like, for me, he has credit in the bank. You know what I mean? I'd watch
Mm.
a movie if you tell me that it's by the guy who made Pearl, and like he's got so much credit in the bank just
If you
based on
haven't
those two
seen
films alone.
the VHS movies, I very highly recommend
He's
them.
same as.
Mm. Oh, have you
Um,
seen them?
I've seen the VHS movies.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're so good.
yeah, they're so good, man.
So good.
So yeah, no, I think he's definitely one to look out for. And as I've started like podcasting you and stuff, we end up I was never really a behind the camera guy. It was always more
Mm.
your thing. But there are just now when you start to watch an awful lot of films and talk about them, you start to see the patterns between who wrote what, who
Yeah.
starred in what, which was the obvious one, and then but who directed being probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great. He is definitely Mike Flanagan as well. Just
Yeah.
somebody, you tell me he's making it, I'm telling you I'm watching it.
Yeah, man, because like I just like, it's hard to kind of like, even you watch so many things, it's hard to get a fresh experience. But I love the nostalgia feeling that I got from X, and then I love the
Yes.
freshness of Pearl. And like to do that in the same story, if in a sense, ostensibly, boom, that's the same story, right? So to do that in the same story and to have them shot completely differently, to have them told in completely different ways, and to have both of them captured to do different time sets the way they're set. I just thought it was so cleverly done. And as I said to you earlier, I've never seen a slasher in Technicolor, and that was new to me. And it's hard to get new. And he gave us the nostalgia of the 70s grindhouse, and to give us something new is like a slasher shot in Technicolor. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, as you said, if Ty West is making it, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with these fucking movies.
So yeah, well recommended to anyone watching. Although hopefully you've seen it if you're watching it, but hopefully you agree. Please
Well,
feel
I'll,
free
I'll
to
put
let us know.
I'll put spoiler in the description.
Yeah, but spoiler, big dirty spoilers with bells on them. The drive over her head. That's how we start. That's how we should start the podcast.
Put it in the description.
No, the drive over her head. Spoiler. Like, specifically
Noel,
like that.
At this week's episode, Vinnie and Noel talk about how Pearl died by getting her head driven over by Maxine, the only survivor from all the characters.
So, spoiler in effect. Yeah, then just spoiler in effect.
At the bottom,
that's how
have
we'll
that
do
in
it.
all caps and have a spoiler and tiny writing at the bottom.
Yeah, that's how we'll roll.
Yeah,
all right, Vin, bring us out.
So before we get the fuck out of here, check us up. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, Invasion of Potty Snatchers. We're all about hit like, subscribe, notify, all those things. If you can,
tell us what you think.
Comment in the comment section. That really helps the channel. Seemingly, I know I hear people saying a lot on videos. I'm clueless.
Guess what beer I'm drinking? It's not Heineken.
Oh yeah, tell us in the comment section what beer Noel is drinking. And if you get it right, you get a 2-week trip with Noel to the Cayman Islands. Potty Snatchers. All right, folks, we're back and we'll be pumping out content, and we got lots of new cool stuff. So if you like it, keep an eye on us because we're going to be doing some cool stuff. So Noel, we going to get the fuck out of here?
We're going to get the fuck out of here.
All right, I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui.
And this is Invasion of Potty Snatchers. That was X, that was Pearl, Ty West, Mia Goth. You're awesome. Check out these movies and see you next time. Peace.